Good morning, church. It is such an honor to be here and to preach today. Uh, as Ashley said, thank you, worship team, for leading us. I just value so much worshiping together with everybody, and God's presence is with our church, and thank you for just worshiping so deeply. All right, well, we finished our Teach Us to Pray series last week, and today we're beginning a new series, and here's what it's called. It's called Building the Kingdom. Jesus is not George's. Building the Kingdom. Jesus is not George's. And so it is a money series, and so just want to get that out of the way. Here's what I'll share. My love language is, I found this out, is physical touch. One of the two main ones. If you know anything about love languages, like words, affirmation, gifts, touch, quality time, acts of service. I thought I did not like physical touch because I hated when people touched me. And when I was a youth pastor, my students found this out. They would come up behind me and poke me in the side, and I hated that so much. One kid who he was trying to get me. I chased him out into the snow and pushed his face in the snow. And that was my first year as a youth pastor. I think I've grown. I wouldn't do that anymore. I don't like being touched by people that I'm not asked. Like, I don't. Yeah, if you're not my wife or my son, yeah, don't. Just we can do a little side hug. Even we have a good friend, but he would just come up and he would just hug me tight, and he would squeeze me because he was such a friendly guy. And I'm glad he's friendly. Ashley knows who I'm talking about. But I just was like, don't touch me. Right. So the worst is, I don't know. There was one time this student came up and did little chin thing under my chin, just that made me, I might have been the maddest I've ever been. Right. You don't touch me under my chin. Right. Because that's like a sensitive area too. Right. Right. Your throat's a pretty sensitive area. So I don't like being touched, especially don't like being touched in the throat. Right, there's certain parts of our body, like our throats. It's like you don't touch there. Right? That's an extra sensitive part. Right, so go to the doctor. Like if you have kind of a broken arm, the doctor can wiggle around your arm, see what's going on with it. But if you have something wrong with your throat, you need the doctor to be extra hey, I'm gonna come in now, right? Be extra gentle, extra sensitive. And so I feel like that's kind of what preaching on money is like, right? Doctors touching our throat, got to be extra sensitive. And I understand as pastors, preaching on wallets, got to be extra sensitive. I understand that. I want to have that sensitivity. But at the same time, you wouldn't be a good doctor if you said, well, that makes you uncomfortable. I'm not going to help your throat at all, right? That wouldn't be a good doctor. Said, I'm just not going to worry about your throat, right? That would be the opposite of being a good doctor because it is an important part. And in the same way, we would not be good pastors if we didn't address every part of life. If we just said, we're not going to touch that area in our pastoring and preaching, we would not be good pastors if we did that. So I believe we need to address it now. And this leads into our kingdom builders. This is not a guilt-ridden series. I can take an Excel right now. This is not you guys are horrible, just give us all your money right now. That's not the way to do it. We believe there's just a way, and we're going to get into the scripture. There's a battle for our hearts. There's a battle for our hearts, and so I just want to get that elephant in the room out of the way. I guess if that's the right saying. As I understand, this is a sensitive topic, and I'm asking God, Lord, let us have sensitive hands here, and church, we want to have sensitive hands here. This is a message for Ashley and I as well. We're not perfect at it. We need God's correction and continual guidance in our life for it. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that was shared. We're just like a doctor working around the throat. We're preachers preaching on wallets for a couple weeks, and so I understand that, and I'm asking God, give us pure hands and hearts here as we do that. But here's the problem. The problem is we think that things like drugs or sex or cussing are the biggest threats to our heart. When really, according to Jesus and the scriptures, it's pride its power, and it's our possessions. Pride, power, and possessions. Now, those there's an overlap. I'm not saying, do whatever you want with drugs in your body. I'm not saying that, right? But the biggest issues to our hearts, the biggest issues to us following God, keeping our eyes on Jesus, is pride, power, and possessions. And so it's worth sharing. It's worth preaching on. It's a battle for our hearts, not our hearts together. And here is our passage for this series. And I'm going to ask that we can stand, and we're going to read this together. These are the words of Jesus. This is from Matthew. It's repeated in Luke. If we can put our verse on the screen. Let's read this together, please. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one. Money. So Jesus, let our hearts be yours and no one else's. Amen. You may be seated this morning. All right, truly, this is the message for all three of these sermons. This is the message. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot be enslaved by money and serve God. There is a battle for your heart, and our possessions, according to Jesus' words from the Sermon on the Mount, is the biggest threat, if one of the biggest, if not the biggest threat, is for our hearts. And so this is the sermon. This is the message for 3 weeks. And everything else we're going to talk about is basically practical application on how to live out what Jesus is calling out here. How do we live not enslaved by money, but our hearts on God? Now, I want to look at this passage as a piece of poetry, because it is. This follows the lines of Hebrew poetry. If you can put that next one up. It's in what we call a chiasm. We're going to get a little technical here. Has anyone taken Hebrew poetry classes? Yeah, a couple of us here, different here and there. But this is called a chiasm. So it basically it mirrors the front and the back mirror, then the next part mirror, and the center. And it's called a chiasm because if you laid it out in two lines, the things that connect cross, like an X, that's the Greek letter chi. I'm getting really technical here. Sorry about that, but this is how this poem is laid out. And so when you see a chiasm, to get to really the center of the point is you map it out like this, because, well, I guess it shows you the center. It shows you what the main point of the poem is, right? Do you see how the passage starts? No one can serve two masters, and how does it end? You cannot serve two masters, right? God and be enslaved to money. And you see how B and B match? You will hate one, you will despise the other. Do you see how those match? And then what's the center of the passage? Love the other, devoted to one. What is the center of the passage? It's about our love and devotion, right? The way Jesus is setting up this poem, this piece of teaching, it's a battle for our hearts. It is about our heart. It's not action. It's not behavior. It's heart. Capturing our hearts. Capturing our hearts. The things that are coming for our hearts are things like power, pride, and possessions. And these are Jesus' words. I want to gently, humbly, but boldly put Jesus' words before us. This poem is about our hearts. And so here's the goal of this series. We want all of our hearts to be a little more free from the power of money. Right? In a couple weeks and in a couple more years, in a couple decades from now, we want to become more and more free from the power of money and more devoted to God. More and more devoted to God. That's our goal. That's the goal for myself. It's the goal for my family, for my church as well. We want you to be able to say confidently and fully, money, you don't own me. You don't own me. And we need to say that because these are Jesus' words. That's what's battling for our hearts. So again, I can't say enough. I understand the sensitivity here. I understand A lot of churches have had a complicated history of mishandling money and manipulating people with it. I understand that, and I ask forgiveness on behalf of church leaders who have done that, around the world. And there's a history of that. And so I'm humbly saying we want to be very careful as leaders not to do that, and this is a message for us as well. So I want to make sure I'm saying that as much as I can, because we are not perfect people, but we want to honor God's word here. It's a battle for our hearts. So here's how this series is going to line up. Here are kind of the three ways we're looking at how we can keep money from enslaving us. 3 ways. We can keep money from enslaving us with wisdom. Wisdom, that's today, is being responsible with our money. When we use wisdom and being responsible with our money, it keeps money from enslaving us. Next week, we're going to talk about how when we use worship, when we worship God with our money, it is a surrender of our money, a surrender to God. That's going to be our tithe. We're talking about a tithe, a percentage giving. You set aside a percentage every week, every month, whatever it is, and say, God, this is yours. I am trusting you to take care of me. God, this is yours. And then finally, the last sermon, along with our Kingdom Builder Sunday, is welfare. We have the W's there. We've tried to find a good W word. Wisdom, worship, and welfare, which is sharing our money. And I know welfare has like some social political connotations. I just mean the well-being of people around us, right? Helping people in need. That's what we mean by welfare, right? We're not connecting to any political program, but just the welfare, the well-being of people around us. Wisdom, worship, and welfare. When we are responsible with our money, when we worship God by setting aside a committed percentage, and when we live generously to help those around us, these are ways, these are tools that help us say, money, you don't own me. You don't own me. I am not a slave to you. God has my heart. God has my heart. We're going to end with welfare. That's our Kingdom Builder Sundays. Ashley talked about, we want you guys to take these home and pray over them. We believe we are a church called to help outside of our walls. Outside of our walls. Generosity towards those in need. That is so commonly talked about in the New Testament and by Jesus. And so that's the capstone. That's where we're going with this whole series, is leading to a moment where we ask each of our families to say, yes, I commit to being part of Kingdom Builders, to helping those outside our walls with need. We've talked about just the logistics of it. We have 2 funds here. If you've never heard of Kingdom Builders before, or if you've forgotten, we have 2 funds in our church. One's our general fund. That's the tree trunk. Oh, nice, Ashley. Great slide. General fund is the tree trunk. That keeps things strong and going. That's kind of keeps the lights on here, right? It keeps we have snacks and toys, for our kids ministry. We have office supplies. We are able to do what we need to do. That's the tree trunk. That's our general fund. Then our Kingdom Builders Fund, that's the branches. That's where we push out. We go outside our walls. And so tithes and offerings, percentage giving goes to general fund to keep the trunk strong, and then above and beyond generosity to Kingdom Builders, it helps us branch out to our city, to our state, to our world. That's the logistics of it. That's where the series is going, right? Finishing with Kingdom Builders in 2 weeks. All right, but today, let's get into today. How do we live with wisdom? How do we live with wisdom with our money? All right, well, I have a couple. Do those pictures, do we get the pictures of the bees in there? Okay. All right. Well, so I found a story that this couple had been hearing noises in their house, right? Just hearing a hum, hearing a buzz. It turns out in one of their bedrooms, they located it, and there was an enormous beehive in the floorboards of their bedroom. And there's a picture of, it's a bedroom, and the carpet's completely rolled back, and they had to screw into the floor and picked out a big piece of floorboard and just a beehive this big in the bedroom, right? No good. No good, right? Yeah, every now and then, fly gets in, bee gets in. But yeah, you don't want a beehive living in your bedroom, right? Here's the thing. Can't take care of the problem while it's hidden, right? Can't get rid of the beehive. Can't even figure out what is this hum until you actually dig in and see it, right? Once the professionals come in, pull out the hive. Oh, that's what's going on here. Let's clear out these bees, right? Yeah, it was pretty gnarly picture. The floorboards and just like the hive, like a bunch of combs coming out. Um, can't fix the problem that you can't fully see or understand. And so with living in wisdom, here's what I'm offering today is budgeting. Budgeting with our money. Budgeting tells our money, I see you. Budgeting is a way to tell our money, I see you. Instead of just buzzing around somewhere, yeah, I think something's going on here or there. Budgeting is a way to dig in, look at the problem, and now you can address and you know what's going on. Budgeting tells your money, I see you. So again, I want to be clear. There's not really a command in the Bible or from Jesus to have a budget. Sit down and get an Excel spreadsheet out and have a budget. It's not commanded, but the Bible does assume it. The Bible assumes, Jesus assumes, like, of course you're going to have a budget. That's just a natural way of living. You know what? Jesus also doesn't command us to cook our meat before we eat it. But it's assumed, right? Like, just because Jesus doesn't command it doesn't mean it's not something we should be doing. Budgeting tells our money, I see you. Right? In the same way, if God was calling us, hey, dig a hole outside, I would be a bad pastor if I didn't tell you to bring your shovel. Right? Like, obviously you need a shovel to dig a hole, right? So if we're going to live responsibly with money, it's kind of an obvious thing. Have a budget. Be able to know what you're dealing with. Budgeting. I wanted to title this message, Budgeting, It Just Makes Sense, but with a C, like just makes sense, little pun, yeah. But I went with this instead. Budgeting tells your money, I see you. So let's look at Proverbs. Proverbs, a book of wisdom, a book of observations from the world on how God makes our world work. Proverbs 27:23 says, know the state of your flocks and put your heart into caring for your herds. For riches don't last forever, and the crown might not be passed to the next generation. Know the state of your flocks. Put your heart into caring for your herds. Because riches doesn't just last forever. There's no guarantee. The crown, the crown is the symbol of riches and wealth and status. It doesn't automatically just go on. Right? I heard this saying a million times. You've probably said it 100 times. Money doesn't grow on trees. You know what? But if it did, you still have to take care of the trees. If it did. That's my original saying. So you can take that one home. Right? So money, even if money grew on trees, you still have to take care of the trees. Like, you have to be intentional with what's going on. Know the state of your flocks. That was written today. Know the state of your bank accounts. Know the state of your investments. Put your heart into caring. You can only fix the problems you know about. Know what's going on. It's just wisdom. It's just wisdom. Budgeting tells your money, I see you. Budgeting tells your money, I see you. From Luke 14, this is Jesus. This is Jesus telling a parable, and you see his assumption in it. Luke 14:28b through 33. Count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating to see if there's enough to finish? Or what king would go to war against another king without first sitting down with his counselors to discuss whether his army of 10,000 could defeat the 20,000 coming after him? And Jesus finishes with a point with, if you're going to follow me, count the cost. Realize what it takes. So he's just assuming, like, obviously, if you're going to go into something, know the cost, know the details of it. It's just an obvious thing you're going to do. Count the cost. Be aware of where you're heading. It reminded me, 2021, we went on a vacation in West Virginia, beautiful West Virginia, and we had a little place, this little Airbnb, a little like one-bedroom studio, but up on a river. That might have been your favorite place you've ever been to. And I don't know where I just went off either for a drive by myself or maybe I was looking for a grocery store or something. and I was following the GPS, and we are not in huge civilization. We're kind of in backwoods West Virginia, and I'm following this GPS, and the road goes from concrete to gravel, and then from gravel to dirt, and then it goes from dirt to grass. And the GPS still set like it's still saying like go over here, but it's grass, and now it's a little muddy, and I see like a fence somewhere, and it's telling me to go up over this hill, and I'm in a rental car, and eventually I just say, you know what, I'm gonna call it. Whatever I'm looking for, whatever I'm exploring in, I don't know what's over this little hill. I don't know if I'm going into a shotgun wielding person's backyard or something like that. The GPS says go, but I need to be aware of where I am, right? I'm not just going to blindly not ask questions. I'm going to realize where I am and decide this is not a place worth going into, right? I don't need a Dollar General that bad right now to go, just keep driving through grass in the middle of a place I've never been to before. Right? Count the cost. Count the cost. Know what's in front of you. That makes me think of if you've seen one of our favorite shows, The Office, where the main character just drives his car into a lake because the GPS tells him to turn, and he turns too early and just drives into a lake thinking the GPS knows where it's going. Right? No, look around you and see what's happening. Don't just blindly follow. Jesus is assuming, of course you're going to budget. It's just an obvious step. You wouldn't get into something without recognizing what's at stake, without recognizing the strengths and weaknesses. Ashley can attest. One of my catchphrases is probably, we're fine. It's fine. That's not something I need to limit that when it comes to our budget and big life decisions. It's probably fine. It's good for some things, not for some big issues, not for the things that are battling for our hearts, right? When Jesus says this is battling for your hearts, it's probably fine, is not a wise move. Having a plan is common sense. Having a plan is common sense. Budgeting tells your money, I see you. I see you. Here's the last one. And these are the verses right before the poem we read. This is Matthew 22 and 23. This is connected to our theme verse. Your eye is like a lamp that provides light for your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is filled with light. But when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness. Here's the key. Here's the end of this. And if the light you think you have is actually darkness, how deep that darkness is. If the light you think you have is darkness. This is a tricky verse. It's not immediately clear what this is talking about. But what is obvious is this is definitely related to money, because verses 21 through 24 are all about money. So Jesus he's not doing money, random eyeball illustration money again. This is connected. He's using this to illustrate his point about money, about storing up treasures in heaven, and then about a battle for our hearts. I think there's some things to get out of this. If the eye is not right, you won't have light on the inside. Has anyone been to caving before? Been in caves? There's little fish, and it was just fascinating to me. Fish and shrimp that can't see or even don't have eyes anymore. Now, you can take your flashlight and shine it on these fish. They don't know the difference. Why? Because they don't have eyes. They literally don't have a capacity, right, to take in light anymore. No matter how much light is around them, they've lost the capacity. And I think Jesus is saying, one, if you don't get money right, everything else will be affected. Right? If the eye isn't right, it doesn't matter how much else light there is, you're not going to be filled with light. Everything else will be affected if you don't get money right. And then he finishes and says, the light you think you have is actually darkness. And these words are a little cutting for me, but I want to receive them humbly. These are Jesus' words. The light you think you have is actually darkness. And I heard it interpreted this way, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Greed Right? Greed, things that having to do with money and possessions. Greed mainly works by convincing ourselves we don't have it. Right? The light we think we have. Greed mainly works by convincing ourselves we don't have it. Oh, I'm not greedy. That doesn't apply to me. It always applies to people who have more money than us, right? They're the greedy ones, right? Greed mainly works by convincing ourselves it's not a problem for us. Right? Like you don't, again, this is not my illustration. I thought it was pretty good. You don't accidentally, if you're talking about kind of the seven deadly sins, lust or whatever, you don't accidentally commit adultery. It's not like, oh my goodness, you're not my wife. What happened? Right? That's not how it works. But with greed, it's this. Oh, that's not really me. That's not a problem for me. And I don't know your heart, so I don't know. I'm not God. I can't say, but I think it shows up in different ways as well. Greed is the state of desiring and taking more than we really need, constantly living in a state of more than we really need. The light you think you have is actually darkness. We think we're fine. We think it's not a problem. That's what greed can do to us. It tells us that it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. Don't consider the ramifications. Just don't worry about it. Right? It pulls us to continue in that darkness of just not even bringing it into the light, right? Oh, what's that hum in the floor? It's probably just the wind, right? There's no way there's a hive of 30 million bees down there, right? Greed pulls us into just not worrying about bringing things into the light and asking the right questions of just the status quo, because well, what if I might lose something, or what if? That's what greed can do to us. It makes us think the light that we have, the darkness we have, it makes us think it's light. I thought that was an excellent illustration when I heard that. So let's be aware, church. Let's be aware. I'm asking you to bring your hearts before God. I can't say exactly what it is for each of us. I know in my life, I think what God's speaking to me, the areas that I'm a little closed-handed, a little greedy on, I want to trust Him and let go and be content with enough. I don't know what it is for you, but I think it can affect us. And I think it's especially, and I listen, I want to be getting very sensitive. I know we are different economic states. I know prices go up and down. I'm not saying, you live lavish lifestyles and sell your Mercedes and Bugattis. Like, I know that's not our church. But at the same time, we live in a country where we're in the top automatically. You're in the top 20% of the world, right? And if you have more than one vehicle or more than one pair of clothes or more than enough for one meal, we're pushing it. I want to understand that, yet be sensitive about. I know there's needs and medical things happen, and I know that. So again, I want to be very sensitive to this. But these are the words of Jesus saying, possessions are battling for your heart. And what greed does, keeps us in the dark and says, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. Don't worry about if you're spending too much on this. Don't worry about if, I don't know. Are these things, are the companies that create these things causing harm or help for the neighborhoods and communities where these are made? I don't know, and I don't really want to find out, right? So that's greed in my heart right there, where I don't really want to know all the details of how iPhones are made. I don't know if it takes people in third world countries and keeps them in poverty, and I don't really want to know because I like my phone. I'm being honest with you guys. Like, those are the questions that greed doesn't want you to ask, because it says you're happy how you are. You don't want to lose this, right? You need it to be a pastor, right? I don't know, but I want my heart to be open enough where if Jesus has asked me to let go of things, I want to be open to it. So, a budget makes us ask ourselves brave questions and confronts us with necessary solutions. A budget is pulling back the carpet and open up the hole in the floor and saying, okay, what's that buzzing going on? It makes us look. A budget makes us go to the repair shop and see what's the check engine light on for. It's fine. That's my motto with that, right? But a budget makes ourselves ask the question to say, hey, what's going on? Where is our money going? What are we spending on? What could we cut back on? All right, so here's kind of the 3 points I shared today with just pieces of wisdom from Scripture. Not commands, but wisdom and assumptions that we should do this. You can only fix the problems you know about. Having a plan is common sense. And a budget makes us ask brave questions and confronts us with necessary solutions. But no, and I know it's a sensitive and kind of heavier message today. But this is wisdom from the Scriptures, and it's a battle for our hearts. And I want to responsibly share it. All right, so what? How are we going to end? What's our takeaway? Well, first, I do want to celebrate. I want to celebrate, and I want to say thank you to our board members. Thank you to our church for attending business meetings and helping us be accountable with our church budget. Thank you for asking good questions. Jason, David, and Ralph on our board. Carrie, who's been on our board. Thank you for asking us good questions and helping us keep our church budget in the light where we can see it. I want to say thank you for that. Thank you, church, for caring and looking through the numbers and attending business meetings. Thank you, Anakin, that your first Sunday was a business meeting here at our church, and you still came back. We want our church to be filled with light, right, with our money. We don't want to just say, we're probably doing fine. We don't want that for our church. We want to steward and be responsible with your money that's God's money and how we use it well. So I want to celebrate and say thank you to that. I also want to celebrate, I don't think you shared this, but our 2025 Kingdom Builders, we are going to hit our 100% pledge goal today. Today, 2 months before the end of the year, we're going to hit 100%. That's worth celebrating. I think we're going to say that every week the next couple of weeks. Usually if you get to 80%, it's pretty healthy. 80% of what people pledge. Because in the moment, people are excited and say, I'm going to give this much. The fact that we are at 100% of our pledges on November 9th is, truly it's a miracle, and it's a testament to your guys' faithfulness. So I celebrate that. Thank you for sitting down last year, or maybe you were standing up, I don't know, when you decided and you did your 2025 pledges. Thank you for deciding and sticking with it. I celebrate that. We don't want you to be enslaved to money. We want you to live in the freedom of the gospel. Jesus came to set us free. So, this is not something I'm saying all our church struggles with. I believe we have a church of a lot of responsible people. But the main thing I want to say is if you have a budget and you're operating, I say good job, and remember, it is not just a spreadsheet you have on your computer. It's a battle for your heart. And I say good job. You are living in the freedom of the gospel by living off a budget. So good job, church. Thank you. And if you don't, I want to call you into that. Step into some more freedom. Step into some more freedom. Not guilt-ridden, not shame-ridden. But if it's money or Jesus, I want the yoke of Jesus, whose burden is light, and he gives us rest. And I want to invite you into that as well. If you don't have a budget, I'm speaking, I know we have some young people moving from 18 years old and above, moving into adulthood. There is freedom in it. There is freedom in saying, I see you, budget, because I am living not enslaved to you, but to Jesus. And we want to help. If you don't have a budget, but you're interested and you're like, I'm not sure what to do, there's a couple from our church that works professionally with budgets and finances. We want to set you up with them, and they'll sit down with you once or twice and get you set up. So I don't want to just preach something and say, well, good luck, figure it out. We want to help you, give you practical reasons and practical ways to do that. We want to help you with it, church, because we truly believe it will bring freedom to your life, and it will bring your heart closer to God by breaking off the enslavement of money and possessions. If you're living off a budget, if you're living in wisdom, I say thank you, church. Keep at it, because you are living in freedom of heart when you're doing that. You are breaking off the enslavement of money when you're doing that. Thank you, and keep doing it. And if not, hey, let's step into that freedom together. We want to help you out. That's the message today. Budgeting. Budgeting is wisdom. Budgeting tells your money, I see you. Budgeting is a step towards living in the freedom of Christ and not the enslavement of money. Yeah, just come talk to us. Come talk to us right after service. Ashley and I, send us a text or email. The next day or two. We want to help you out with that. But that's the message today, church. It's very practical, but it's the freedom of Christ that He's calling us into, and it's His words, His message. Can we put that original verse back on the screen, Matthew 6:24? I just want to leave that up as we dismiss today. We want you to love and be devoted to Jesus, the good master, whose burden is light. And so I pray, Jesus, see my heart. Help me let go of where I'm greedy. Help our church escape the enslavement of possessions and step into your freedom. And I ask this in your name. Amen. All right, church, thank you so much. We love you guys. Walk in the freedom of Christ this week, and we will see you next Sunday.